The deep black of space stretched endlessly before the human exploration ship Atlas. The vessel glided silently across the void, its silver hull gleaming faintly under the pale light of distant stars. Inside, hundreds of humans worked together. Their mission was simple yet daring. Explore the newly discovered Andromeda Gate, a mysterious wormhole that could connect galaxies. Among them were two people whose bond was stronger than duty itself, Captain Elias Rowan and Dr. Lyra Venn. Elias was a man of quiet strength, known across the fleet for his calm voice and unshakable courage. Lyra, on the other hand, was the heart of the expedition, a scientist whose curiosity burned brighter than any star. The two had served side by side for years, trusting each other through every danger the galaxy had to offer. And though neither spoke it aloud, their connection was deeper than friendship. That evening, as the Atlas orbited the shimmering edge of the Andromeda Gate, the observation deck was quiet except for the hum of energy from the massive portal. Lyra stood by the glass, staring at the swirling blue light. Elias joined her, holding a cup of synthetic coffee that smelled faintly of cinnamon. "It's beautiful," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the endless motion of the gate. "It's also unstable," Elias replied, handing her the cup. "Command thinks it's only a few days from collapse. We might be the last humans to ever see it." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then let's make it count." For a moment, silence filled the room. Just two humans watching the unknown. Then she asked quietly, "Do you ever think about what's on the other side?" "All the time," he said. "But not as much as I think about coming back." Lyra turned her gaze toward him, surprised by the honesty in his tone. Elias didn't look away. "Promise me something," she said finally. "If anything goes wrong, if we get separated, promise you'll wait for me. No matter how long it takes." He smiled gently, that rare smile that reached his eyes. "Beneath the same sky?" She nodded. "Then I promise," he said. The next morning, the Atlas moved closer to the wormhole. Energy readings spiked across the ship's systems. Engineers shouted coordinates. Lights flickered across control panels. The bridge was alive with tension. Elias stood at the command center, his voice steady. "All stations report. Prepare the probe for launch." But before the probe could be released, the Andromeda Gate pulsed violently. The entire ship trembled as waves of blue-white energy tore across space. The wormhole began to twist unnaturally, folding in on itself. "Quantum storm!" shouted the navigator. "It's collapsing." "Shields up," Elias ordered. "All hands brace for impact." But the storm was too powerful. The wormhole's energy lashed against the ship, bending metal, cracking hulls. Lyra clung to her console, trying to stabilize the energy core, but the readings made no sense. The entire system was tearing itself apart. "Elias," she cried. "The containment field's breaking." He rushed to her side.
"Escape pods now."
"But the data, forget the data," he snapped, grabbing her arm. "You have to go." The ship groaned under the pressure. Fires broke out along the corridors. Crew members shouted as oxygen vents burst open. Through the chaos, Elias guided Lyra toward the escape bay. Half the pods were gone already, ejected by panicked crew. Only one remained functional, its screen flashing green. "Get in," Elias said firmly. She shook her head.
"Not without you."
"I'll be right behind you," he lied. "Someone has to stabilize the launch sequence." Tears filled her eyes. She knew that tone. It was the same calm voice he used before every dangerous mission, the voice that always came before sacrifice. "Elias, please." He reached up, brushing his gloved hand gently against her face. "You said to promise, right? So I will. I'll wait for you." Beneath the same sky, her breath caught. "You mean it?" "Always." She stepped into the pod, her eyes locked on him. The door sealed with a hiss, cutting off her voice. Through the glass, she saw him press a hand to the window. She did the same. Two hands, separated by a thin wall of metal and glass, holding the last moment they'd ever share. The pod launched. A burst of light threw it clear of the collapsing ship. Inside the pod, Lyra's world became a blur of noise and light. The wormhole's energy twisted space around her, tossing her through time itself. Her consciousness slipped into darkness as the stasis field activated. Outside, Elias turned back to the bridge. The ship was falling apart, alarms screaming in every direction. But through the chaos he worked. He rerouted power from damaged systems, trying to keep the ship steady long enough to record a signal. He spoke into the intercom, voice rough but unwavering. "Dr. Lyra Venn, Capsule confirmed in stable trajectory toward Arevia colony. If anyone finds this message, tell her I kept my word. Tell her I'll be waiting beneath the same sky. The ship shuddered violently as the storm swallowed it. The bridge split open, light consuming everything. Elias closed his eyes, smiling faintly. Beneath the same sky, he whispered, and then he was gone. When Lyra awoke, everything had changed. She blinked against the soft sunlight of Arevia, a world with twin moons and green skies. Her pod lay half buried in sand, its systems long dead. Her communicator emitted only static. She stumbled out weak but alive and looked up. The sky above was breathtaking, a pale teal expanse streaked with distant stars. For a moment she just stood there, heart pounding, realizing she was alone. The Atlas was gone, the wormhole gone, and Elias, lost somewhere beyond time. But then she remembered his promise. Beneath the same sky, tears blurred her vision as she whispered to the empty horizon, "Then I'll wait too." Years passed on Arevia. The colony grew around her pod, small and humble. Lyra became known as the Gatekeeper, the woman who once touched the edge of another galaxy. She taught new explorers about the stars, about courage, and about a man who once promised to wait. Every night she stood on the same hill and looked up at the sky. It was never the same color twice, sometimes blue, sometimes silver, sometimes burning gold, but it was still the same sky that Elias had seen, and in her heart, she believed he was still out there, waiting. One evening, decades later, a young student asked her, "Dr. Venn, why do you still look at the stars? Don't you think he's gone?" Lyra smiled softly, her eyes never leaving the heavens. "No, you see, stars don't die when they fade from sight. Their light just takes a little longer to reach us. That's all." She raised her hand toward the largest moon, tracing its outline against the horizon. "He's out there somewhere, and one day someone will find him. Until then, I'll keep looking. That's what humans do. We wait, we hope, and we never stop believing." That night, a meteor shower lit up Arevia's sky, streaks of silver fire dancing across the heavens. The colonists cheered, but Lyra just smiled through her tears, because in that moment, under the endless stars, she could almost hear his voice, steady, warm, and full of promise, no matter how long it takes. "I'll be waiting beneath the same sky." Darkness surrounded him. Elias Rohn expected death when the Atlas broke apart inside the quantum storm. But instead there was stillness. He opened his eyes to a sky filled with colors that shouldn't exist. Blue fire, golden dust, rivers of light stretching across the void. His body floated among wreckage, broken metal, frozen oxygen tanks, shattered panels from his ship. He reached for the control device still strapped to his wrist. The screen flickered, showing one word, "Alive." Elias exhaled shakily. His ship was gone, his crew lost, but somehow he had survived. Hours or maybe days passed. Time had no meaning inside the storm. He managed to pull himself toward a section of the Atlas's engineering bay still intact. Artificial gravity flickered weakly. He sealed the airlock and checked the systems. Power 5%. Oxygen 8 hours, the ship's voice said weakly. Elias sat in silence. Around him, fragments of metal floated like ghosts. Through a cracked viewport he saw the wormhole pulsing in the distance, a wounded, collapsing wound in space. He touched the glass. "Lyra," he whispered. "Please be safe." The words hung in the silence, swallowed by the hum of broken machines. Then, out of habit more than hope, he opened the communication channel and sent a message through the static. Capsule launched. "Lyra alive. I'll hold here. I'll wait beneath the same sky." He sent it again, and again, until his hands trembled and the transmitter burned out. Years later, though he didn't know it, Elias didn't age. The storm had changed him. The strange quantum field that had destroyed his ship also wrapped around him, slowing his time. Hours for him were decades for the rest of the universe. At first he thought it was a curse. But when he looked out at the stars, he realized something else. The universe was moving, evolving, growing, while he remained the same. He was watching time itself flow past. He learned to survive among the ruins of the Atlas. Using scraps of alien metal drawn in by the storm, he built shelters and repaired his suit. He scavenged solar energy from drifting debris and created a small field of stability, a place where the storm's madness softened into peace. Ships appeared sometimes, Ghostly, half real, caught in the time field just like him. Some were human, others alien. Most were doomed, torn apart before his eyes. But a few he managed to save. He became known in whispers as the Watcher of the Broken Sky, a mysterious figure who appeared from nowhere to rescue lost travelers from the edge of time. He never told them his name. He only asked one question before sending them safely back to their world. "Can you see Arevia's sky from there?" Most didn't know what he meant, but sometimes, just sometimes, someone would answer, "Yes." And every time Elias would smile softly. "Good," he'd say. "Tell her I'm still waiting." Centuries later, for the universe, the galaxy moved on. Empires rose and fell. Humans built new colonies, explored new systems, and forgot the Atlas expedition. But stories of the Watcher spread through spacers' tales, told in quiet bars and deep space docks. "There's a man out there," they said. "A man who never dies. A man who waits for someone who's been gone for 1,000 years." Elias never heard those stories himself. To him it was still only a few years since the storm. But in his heart he began to feel the weight of eternity pressing down. He wondered if Lyra was still alive, if she had made it, if she had looked up at the sky and remembered. On lonely nights he would project the holographic sky of Arevia across his small station, a simulation he had built from her last known coordinates. Twin moons, teal clouds, silver stars. He would sit beneath it, drink recycled water, and whisper softly, "Same sky, Lyra. I kept my word." The signal one day, though day was a meaningless word in his world, something changed. The static on his receiver shifted. A faint pulse cut through the noise. Arevia colony. The voice was distorted, old, but human. He froze. "Say again," he said quickly, his voice shaking. "Repeat transmission." The signal grew stronger. A human research ship had detected an energy anomaly near the storm, matching Atlas frequency. They were sending a probe. Elias laughed, an unfamiliar sound after centuries of silence. His heart raced like it hadn't in years. He activated every beacon he had left, pouring power into a single message. Arevia sky. "I'm still waiting." Then the power drained out, and the silence returned. But somewhere in the galaxy, the message was received. Arevia to 500 years after the Atlas expedition, on a quiet colony world beneath 2 moons. Dr. Lyra Venn sat on a hillside, her hair silver and her eyes still bright. The years had not taken her spirit, only her strength. She lived among generations who called her a hero, but she never thought of herself that way. That day, a young pilot named Cale Arden rushed to her home. "Dr. Venn, you need to see this." He showed her a hologram message from the Galactic Research Council. "We picked up an old transmission near the Andromeda sector," he said breathlessly. It's human, but the signal's centuries old. The ID code matches the Atlas." Lyra's heart stopped for a moment. "Show me." Kyle played the message. Through static and distortion, a voice spoke. "Arevia sky." "I'm still waiting," her eyes filled with tears. That voice, that steady tone, it was him. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the projection. "Elias," she whispered. The young pilot looked confused. "You know him?" She smiled weakly. "He's the reason I'm still here." The decision that night, Lyra gathered her notes, her old maps, her records of the storm. The world might have forgotten Elias Rohn, but she never had. She met Cale at the Colony Observatory. "You want to go after him, don't you?" she asked. He nodded. "If that message is real, then he's still out there somehow. Maybe trapped in a time pocket. If anyone deserves to be brought home, it's him." Lyra looked at the young man's eager face and saw a reflection of herself long ago, full of hope, chasing the unknown. "You'll need my help," she said. Cale's eyes widened. "You'd come with me." She shook her head softly. "No, my journey's almost done. But I'll teach you everything I know about the gate, about Elias, about waiting." For weeks they worked together. She taught Cale how to read quantum distortions, how to trace the fading remnants of the wormhole. He learned quickly, driven by her faith in the man from the past. Before he left, she gave him a small crystal cube, an old holographic recorder. "He gave this to me on the day we found the gate," she said. "If you find him, show him the sky." Kyle held it carefully. "I will, Dr. Venn, I promise." She smiled, the same gentle smile Elias once knew. Then you understand what promises mean. The journey begins. Kale's ship, the Odyssey, launched into the void. Lyra stood outside her dome as it vanished into the stars. For the first time in centuries, she felt peace. Her heart was still heavy with longing, but also full of something brighter, hope. She looked up at the heavens and whispered, "He's coming, Elias, someone who still believes in us." Above her, the twin moons glowed softly, reflecting off the calm sea. Somewhere far beyond human reach, Elias Rohn still watched the stars, waiting beneath the same sky. He didn't know that his message had reached her. He didn't know that a young man was coming through the stars to find him. But as he looked up at the swirling lights of the storm, something in him stirred. A flicker of warmth like sunlight through cold glass. He smiled faintly. "Soon," he said. The watcher of the broken sky turned toward the horizon, unaware that his long wait was almost over. Cale Arden piloted the Odyssey through the quiet void of deep space. His hands gripped the controls tightly, eyes scanning the holographic map of quantum anomalies. The coordinates Lyra had given him were precise, or as precise as centuries-old data could be. But the storm's remnants twisted reality in unpredictable ways. Every sensor beep, every faint signal set his pulse racing. Somewhere out there, he knew, was Elias Rowan, the man who had survived beyond time itself. For days, he navigated the maze of debris left behind by the collapsing Andromeda Gate. Fragments of ancient ships floated like silent monuments to human ambition. Cale adjusted the ship's field, careful to avoid energy pockets that could tear it apart. He pressed on, guided by hope and a single promise. He's waiting beneath the same sky. The first contact, on the edge of the storm, the sensors picked up a faint, pulsing energy signature. Cale froze. "It has to be him," he whispered. The pulsing grew stronger, almost like a heartbeat. As the Odyssey approached, Cale saw it, a silhouette standing amidst the drifting wreckage of the Atlas. A man, motionless, framed by broken metal and alien light. His uniform was tattered, yet his posture was perfect, steady, and commanding. Elias Rowan had become more legend than man. Yet there he was, alive, waiting. Cale activated the external comms. "Elias Rowan," he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "This is Cale Arden from Merivia Colony. We've come for you." The figure turned slowly, his eyes sharp and bright despite centuries of isolation locked onto the ship. For a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. "You're late," Elias said, a small smile crossing his face. Cale felt his throat tighten. "You've survived all this time. Why didn't you return?" Elias's gaze wandered across the wreckage, the storm's remnants, the floating lights. "Some places are not meant to leave," he said quietly. "If I leave, this place collapses. Everything I've held together, gone." Kyle nodded, understanding dawning. "Then we'll bring you without destroying it. There's a way." The reunion plan inside the Odyssey, Cale explained Lyra's message and the crystal hologram she had given him. Elias's hand shook slightly as he took it. The cube glowed faintly, projecting a familiar sky. The twin moons of Arevia, silver and teal clouds above, the stars stretched wide across the horizon. He looked at it for what felt like hours, silent. Then, in a voice almost too quiet to hear, She's still waiting?" "Yes," Kyle said, voice firm. "She never gave up. She kept looking at the same sky." Elias's eyes filled with a strange emotion, relief, longing, joy, and sorrow all at once. He nodded slowly. "Then we have to go. I cannot let her wait any longer." But the problem remained. Elias was fused with the storm's temporal field. Leaving it would collapse the fragile structure he had maintained for centuries. Cale studied the energy readings. "We can stabilize it long enough to get you through," he said. "It'll take everything the ship has, but it's possible." Elias smiled faintly. "I always hoped humanity would find a way. Then let's go. The journey through the storm." The Odyssey edged closer to Elias's position. Energy surged around them, painting the void in streaks of blue and gold. Every move required precision. One wrong calculation could tear the ship apart. Elias extended his hand to Cale. "Prepare the harness. I'll attach to the field manually." Kyle nodded, heart hammering. "Ready." Elias activated a personal shield and began the slow, careful process of detaching from the temporal field. Sparks of energy crackled around him. The Odyssey's system strained, lights flickering with the effort. For a moment it seemed impossible. The storm's energy flared violently, threatening to tear the ship apart. Kel gritted his teeth, steering carefully, adjusting the energy dampeners. And then slowly, Elias was free. He floated inside the ship, breathing heavily, eyes wide with relief and disbelief. Cale reached out and helped him stabilize. "You made it," Cale said simply. Elias's lips curved in a small, exhausted smile. "We made it," he corrected, looking at the young man with respect. "You did the impossible." The return to Irivia days later, the Odyssey entered Irivia's orbit. The twin moons hung above the planet, silver against the fading teal of the atmosphere. Elias stepped onto the observation deck, feeling the gravity beneath his feet for the first time in centuries. The air smelled of life, trees, soil, and the quiet hum of civilization. He raised his hand to the sky. For years he had only imagined it. For decades he had only waited. Now it was real. Cale handed him the crystal hologram again. "She wants you to see this first," he said. Elias activated the projection. There she was, Lyra, standing beneath the same moons, silver hair glinting in the light, eyes filled with hope and tears. "Lyra," he whispered, voice cracking. The reunion on the hillside. Lyra looked up at the sky. She had grown older, stronger, and wiser, but her heart had never stopped. When the hologram shimmered and a new presence appeared beside it, she froze. A figure stepped forward, tall and steady, moving as if time itself had finally released him. Elias Roan, alive, real. She ran, her feet carrying her faster than her body should have allowed. Tears streamed down her face as she reached him. He knelt, arms open, and she threw herself into him. They held each other beneath the twin moons, the same sky they had promised each other all those years ago. The stars above shimmered like distant witnesses to a vow finally fulfilled. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "And you never stopped waiting," he said, pressing his forehead to hers. For a long moment, there was only silence, only breathing, only the sky. Then the stars shifted, a shooting streak of light crossing the horizon, a final flare of the storm that had bound him for centuries. It faded slowly, leaving calm in its wake. The galaxy had moved on, but for them time had finally healed. The legacy, in the weeks that followed, humans recorded the event as the Keeper's Passage. Elias shared his story with Lyra and Cale, recounting centuries of waiting, survival, and vigilance. The tale spread across colonies. The story of a man who survived beyond time, who kept his promise, and of a woman who never gave up hope. Children grew up hearing of the Watcher of the Broken Sky and the Keeper of Irivia. Their story became a symbol of what made humanity special: courage, loyalty, and the unshakable power of a promise. Elias and Lyra rebuilt their life slowly, quietly, together. Each day they would stand beneath the same sky, watching new stars appear, knowing that the universe was vast, but love and hope were far stronger. One evening, as they sat on the hill hand in hand, Lyra whispered, "We waited for centuries, and still, it feels like the first time." Elias smiled, squeezing her hand. "And we'll wait as long as we need to. For the stars, for humanity, and for each other." Above them, the twin moons shone. The sky was endless, eternal, and unbroken. Beneath it, humanity had proven its greatest strength, the power to endure, to hope, and to keep its promises. And beneath the same sky, they were finally together.